Alright, so in today's video we're going to learn how to do our Thursday posts. We should have already done our Tuesday post at this point, which involved finding a quotation that spoke to you in some way and then writing your thoughts on it. If you haven't done that yet, you're behind the game and you need to get on top of that because your group members are kind of depending on that, okay? So it's not just affecting you, it's affecting your group. But today we're going to talk about what a Thursday post looks like, and it basically has two parts to it. One thing you have to do is you have to read what your group has written. So you're going to start by going into the Google Classroom feed and you're going to read each post from each group member. So if you have 4 group members, you'll have 4 posts to read. If you have 12 group members, you'll have 12 posts to read. Then you are going to respond. If you have less than 4 group members, you are going to respond to at least 4 of them. If you have, if you have less than 4 group members, you are going to respond to all of them. If you have more than 4 group members, you are going to respond to at least 4 of them. Okay, so either all your group members if you have less than 4, or at a minimum of 4 if you've got more than 4. Okay. What can you do to respond? You can do things like you can answer questions they've asked. You can react to comments they've made. You can agree with each other. You can disagree with each other. You can predict. Basically, you're having a discussion. Maybe you'll just share your thoughts on the quote that they chose. Okay, but you have to do 4 posts, 4 responses to each of your group members for a total of 4. Okay. One thing to keep a note of. This is one long discussion that's going on each week. So you're posting these in response to the Tuesday post. They're staying in the same sort of assignment or place where you posted on Tuesday. And I'll show you what that looks like, okay? So there's an example here that you can take a look at on your own if you want to, but I'm just going to show you how it will look in the Google Classroom. So on Tuesday, you started conversation 1 here by picking a quote and then writing 8 to 10 sentences of your own about that quotation. Okay, and then once you do that, they show up in this comment section below. Okay, you can see that there's 5 comments right now. So if I click on this right here, it will expand and show me all the comments. So you can see here's the one I did on Tuesday, where I selected this quote. And then these were my words about it, okay? Then here was Miss Caston selecting a quote, and these were her words about it. But now you can see that there's some more that have just shown up today, one at 1:59, another at 2:03, and another at 2:28. And what you might also notice is that, so like this one was written by Mrs. Caston, and she's not just writing a random comment, she's writing something specifically to me. You can see where it says at, that at symbol, at Aaron Clark. That means that she's responding to what I wrote. Okay, so when you type in your posts, you're gonna start your post by adding the group member that you want to talk to. So for example, when I typed my response to Mrs. Caston here, I started by writing at, and then I typed in Catherine Caston at ahschools.us. So as you start to do that, so down here you'll click on add a comment, you'll hit the shift 2 for the at symbol to get the at symbol, and then as I start typing a group member's name, so I'll just try Mrs. Palkey. There. So it took a second for it to work, but it should just pop up automatically. And then you can click on that. And now, see, everything I type would be responding to Mrs. Palkey. So that's how you would do that. So you want to make sure that you're responding using that at device, so that when other group members are reading what you write, they know who you're talking to and what quote you're responding about, okay? So, for example, Mrs. Caston wrote this, and when I read that, here's what I said back to her. I said, I'm glad you chose that quote. Reading what you wrote about it helped me see more meaning from that passage than I got the first time. After thinking about it some more, I agree that Gale would have taken Katniss's place if he could have. At least Katniss will know that throughout the games she can count on Gale, if not her mother, to watch over Prim. With Katniss in the games, Gale is going to have to step up even more than he has so far. Katniss's mother clearly isn't up to the task, and Prim, being so close to Katniss, will need someone to take Katniss's place in her life. What a horrible situation. So that was everything I was writing there was in response to Mrs. Caston's post. So that's why I started with at Catherine Caston, okay? Now, as a group member, I would still need to respond to what Mrs. Palkey had posted. Now, and Mrs. Palkey, now you can see she's responded to me, but she has not yet responded to Mrs. Caston. So she would need to respond to Mrs. Caston's post as well. And then you can see Mrs. Caston has responded to me, but she hasn't responded to Mrs. Palkey, so she would need to do that one. So Mrs. Palkey read my quote, which said, but here's the catch. Say you are poor and starving as you were, you can opt to add your name more times in exchange for Tesserae. Each Tesserae is worth a meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. You may do this for each of your family members as well, so at the age of 12, I had my name entered 4 times. So Ms. Palkey read that, and here were her thoughts on what I wrote. She said, it's interesting you pointed out how cruel the Capitol is. I have been struck by this thought since the very beginning of this book. How could they treat their own people so poorly? Where and to whom they are born so drastically affects how often their name is entered into the game and what their future holds, no matter how hard they work. That is so unfair. Are there countries nowadays that are run like the Capitol? I wonder, will the people who run the Capitol see the error in their ways, or will they keep the game going as a way to keep the poor in check? Okay. Notice how much your teachers wrote here. They wrote quite a bit. They wrote many sentences. So this is going to take you a while, and it's going to require some effort and some thinking. We want to see at least this level of writing and length of writing for each of your group members. Remember that you need to respond to at least 4 of your group members this way every Thursday, okay? If there are less than 4 group members in your group, you need to respond to all of them. So, for example, if you happen to have only 3 or 2, you need to respond to all of them. And in fact, if you have less than 3 group members, you need to just you need to respond to each group member twice and share 2 different types of thoughts for each group member so that you reach that number 4. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can come see your ELA teacher. Otherwise, you can get started on Thursday. You can get started on your response posts.